So if you ever try to import anything into South Africa, you know it's an absolute nightmare. About 20 years ago, my brother tried to set up an import-export business with me as a young reporter. It was a complete disaster because I didn't have a clue as where to start. Adam Allen, however, does have a clue where to start. He is the head of Investec Import Solutions, and they've got, can we say it's a little recipe book?
Yeah,
a recipe
definitely.
book, beginning, middle, and end.
Sure.
But I have to have done it before because I need 10 million rands worth of provable business before you're interested in a 3-year track record, which is a little bit unfair for me. It would never help me with my brother in those days. But it is an increasingly complicated thing. It's lots of red tape. It's really difficult to get right. And you guys will do beginning, middle, and end.
Sure. So, I mean, at Investec Import Solutions, we offer a full turnkey solution to importers. Essentially, we handle every aspect of the imports on behalf of the client, from placing the order, managing the order, getting the goods on an actual vessel, clearing them through South African customs, paying the overseas supplier, paying all of the local charges like the clearing, forwarding, duty, customs, VAT, etc., putting it into one invoice and giving you term.
Because so often people get very caught up in the detail. They also don't manage their cash flow properly. So next thing, the goods are halfway across the ocean, or they're sitting in port and there's a big storm, and they're 5 days out of money. And that's part of the solution.
So part of what we've done is that we've developed a system which we call Blue Link. Essentially what the system will do from a risk point of view is it will forward project what all the cash flows are going to be. So if a vessel is 1 week late, it means you're going to pay the supplier 1 week late. It means that all of your cash flows are going to move out. And sometimes those items actually come a bit forward. So it can put you into cash flow issue. And what we do is we forward project what those cash flows are and ensure that our risk department is picking up all of that information actually at the time of placing the order or making a booking or making a payment. So you're much better prepared to actually handle your cash flow. And essentially, if you look at what we do, it's actually a working capital solution. We make sure that businesses can match their working capital cycle a lot better.
Where do you come up with an idea for a business like this? Because you're taking a lot of the hassle out, putting the hassle on yourself in order to do it. What are the origins?
Sure. So I think the origins are that we started this business actually quite by accident. So I was quite happy. I was in the property industry with the late David Cooper, who was my mentor. And a friend of mine came to me and he was looking to start a business. So in those days, I think one of our successes over time was that we knew nothing about importing and nothing about finance, so we never came in with any preconceived ideas. Essentially, he was starting a business. He got some orders from the Edcon group at the time, and he was looking to fund them. And so we started off purely as a funding business. We agreed somehow to fund him, and we thought it was going to be a once-off kind of transaction. We had a bit of money, and we agreed to fund him. We weren't quite sure how we were going to do it the next day, because we couldn't just deposit the money in his BOP-T account. Essentially we figured out that we just inherently always felt that if we were in control of the entire transaction, that we were better in control of that whole risk. So we wanted to pay the supplier, we wanted to get it on a vessel, we wanted to get it off the vessel, we wanted to deliver it to Edcon, and we wanted to get paid. Probably if we knew what we knew today, we would never have started the business, because I think once you get that knowledge and that inherent knowledge, we would have talked ourselves out of ever starting the business.
But isn't that the main part of the charm of it, is that most great businesses are started up, not necessarily accidentally, but started up with a great deal of ignorance, and you kind of learn through the school of hard knocks.
As I said, I think that is part of our success. Our success was that we really knew nothing, and that we learnt, and the way that we learnt was that it was kind of like the University of Hard Knocks. So we lost a lot of money because we didn't understand the underlying transaction. We didn't understand the security that we were taking. We started off as really a transactional based lender. So a guy had a transaction, we would fund it. We're now much more of a balance sheet lender, which is to your point of being more of an established business, and that's from some hard lessons. And essentially what happened is that he asked us to do it again. He introduced us to some friends, and the next thing we were in business. We never started off trying to manage the logistics and the supply chain. But as we got bigger and as we got more volume, we realized that the only way we could really offer benefit through to the clients was that if we could cut out the middlemen and effectively use economies of scale to lower our price, so we could make it very cost effective for the client.
How did you get tied up with Investec then?
So we put the first batch of money in ourselves, and then obviously we started to get quite a lot of demand, so we needed a bank to fund this.
And if David Cooper's your mentor, you're beginning to get some clues in there as well. His origins within Investec too, and use other people's money to make money. I mean, that's essentially what you do, don't you?
Yeah, also that the demand started to outstrip what we could put in comfortably ourselves. and effectively we started with them. The first facility we signed for, the second one, it was really a huge amount. I think it was 100 million rand that we were looking for about 14 or 13 years ago. And Investec came on and took a piece of equity. And then over the years, they've just increased their equity. And if you can imagine, as a private business, it's very, very difficult to raise the kind of money that we needed because the demand for the product just started to grow and grow.
What's the biggest deal you've done so far?
In terms of facility, we have one client with a 500 million rand facility.
500 million rand facility, and that could be a rolling facility.
Yes, rolling. So we probably will do 2.5 billion just with that one client in terms of import volume.
I mean, and that's in 15 quite short years.
Yes. So we have grown it, and that's effectively 2 years ago we ended up selling the business in its entirety to Investec, because you do need a bank's balance sheet to kind of grow the space.
And in terms of investment cycles and in terms of economic cycles, South African consumer confidence is really low right now. We're seeing it in our trade numbers. We're importing a lot less than we were. How does that affect you?
I think we're importing, I think we continue to import, unfortunately, because I think that even where we call a manufacturing sector within the country, a lot of the componentry will now be imported. So, I mean, there's a number of factors, but I think globalization is one of them. There are only certain places where you're going to source products. So we have seen volume continue to be robust. By our count, we reckon there's probably 1.5 trillion rand at landed cost brought into South Africa per annum.
How much of that have you got?
So we've probably got 1.5%.
1.5% of that. So I mean, the growth opportunity then in terms of providing an end-to-end solution where people actually don't have to worry about the cash, don't have to worry about the delivery. Yes. Once the product lands and you hand it over to me and I pass it on to my customer, I worry about paying you.
Yeah, exactly. I think also that this creates a lot of opportunity. So that this instability within the markets creates a lot of opportunity for businesses like us. We do look at credit and risk very differently. Because we're physically in control of the goods when they're on the water, we can place value. I think traditionally financial institutions will look at stock and debtors. It's counter-cyclical because at a point in time when your stock's high, your debtors may be low. And we think that a lot of institutions take a very cookie-cutter approach to that. We can also fund, I mean, we can add funding on because we put more value to the balance sheet.
I mean, essentially what you're doing 350 years later is what Lloyd's of London was doing way back in the coffee house of Lloyd's in the City of London in the days of Samuel Pepys.
Sure. And I think a lot
providing trade finance.
I think a lot in the 60s and 70s in South Africa.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially there were a lot of these confirming houses, and you know they did it. I'm not sure all of them handled the physical movement of the cargo. But that's what we've added, and because we've got systems and technology now available, we can manage the forex, we can physically move the product, and we're a big and meaningful player to the service providers in South Africa. So we can give our client who normally couldn't access that economy of scale, we can give them that.
Adam Orlin from Investec Import Solutions in the spotlight this week on 702.